Let's talk about Switzerland and what's happening at the moment, because you've been in touch with the Trade Secretary on this, which I think the estimate, it could be beneficial to about 7.4 million just at the moment in terms of UK trade deals, because obviously we still have something that dates back to 1970 or 1972 in place with Switzerland.
Yeah, so a key point to grab is that you don't need a trade deal to trade with countries. We have a lot of trade with the US. It's our biggest single country trading partner, almost a fifth of our trade here in the UK, and we don't have a trade deal. So you trade under what's called WTO rules, the general rules around the world.
Which can cost quite a lot in terms of...
There are tariffs and there are quotas, so they are limitations or costs that domestic politicians impose on trade from overseas to protect their domestic producers. When you've got a free trade agreement, most of those tariffs and quotas disappear and you get the beneficial mutual gains from trade. Now, the UK has actually signed quite a few trade deals of our own since we left the European Union, because, of course, when we were in their customs union, the European Union did all our trade deals for us. Here's a list of just the main ones that I've got here, Mark. So in October 2020, we signed a free trade agreement with Japan, obviously after Brexit. That's the third biggest economy in the world. Then with the European Union itself later that year. Then we signed a free trade agreement with our old trading allies, the Aussies, in the middle of 21, and Kiwis in February 2022. Then in March this year, the really big one, the CPTPP. What's that, Mark? It's the Comprehensive Progressive Trade and Pacific Partnership. This is a trade deal that comprises 11 Pacific Rim nations. We're talking about some big economies: Mexico, Canada, the Japanese, again. Other big Asian countries are going to join that. The South Koreans are going to join that quite soon. They're, again, another major economy. So we've got deals now with 71 countries. Some of those are bespoke post-Brexit deals. Other ones are deals that we've just inherited from the European Union, which our Trade Secretary and civil servants will gradually get round to renegotiating so they reflect the UK's interests, not the European Union's. I
mean, there were critics of that Pacific Rim deal saying, well, it's only going to add less than 1% of GDP to the UK. Those figures were disputed, of course.
They were absolutely dismissed as, quotes, ridiculous by the Trade Secretary herself. They use very old assumptions about you trade mostly with the countries that are near to you. Well, we don't, because we're less a manufacturing exporter than we are a services exporter. When you're acting as a lawyer or an architect, or you're creating, electronic games, financial services, all kinds of other high-tech stuff, then you don't need those countries to be near you. You just need to be on the internet. So a lot of our trade is far-flung. That's why a lot of people who back Brexit think that the UK should be trading a lot more with where the bulk of the world population is, around the Pacific Rim, around China, India, and all the rest of it. It's not straightforward, but that is where the growth is in the future.
I mean, we got Liz Truss, who's on another mission, basically questioning whether we should actually tie up with China because of these issues. But I mean, we joked earlier about cuckoo clocks and chocolate.
We were talking about The Third Man, weren't we? The Carol Reed movie.
However, you've touched on an interesting point there, bearing in mind this deal with Switzerland dates so far back, because most of this is about digital trade and data innovation. So we actually need these sort of electronic channels, if you like.
This is how we do most of our trade in services. It's not just financial services, it's legal services, it's insurance, it's all kinds of consultancy. And let's just take a little look here at Switzerland. I've got some more numbers. We are joking sort of fondly. We have a real close relationship with the Swiss, don't we, about cuckoo clocks and Roger Federer and all the rest of it. Look, Switzerland is the UK's 10th largest trading partner, right? It's a big economy, even though it's a small place on the map with lots of mountains. It's the top 20 global economy. It's like always 18th, 19th or 20th biggest economy in the world, which is astonishing when you think it's such a small country. We do £53 billion of trade a year with Switzerland. This is major. They're not in the European Union, of course. They never joined the European Union after many referendums. They didn't want to. They wanted their independence. And as you rightly say, Mark, the existing trade deal does date from the early 1970s, so it doesn't include anything about services at all. And when I've been in touch with Kemi Badenoch in the run-up to the Swiss trip, and indeed today, she's saying, rightly, that the Swiss and the Brits, we are two services superpowers. We are the second biggest exporter of services in the world
Yeah.
after the United States, and the Swiss are the biggest exporter of services per head. So the fact that we haven't got a trade deal where we can trade services between each other freely is a big issue. And this is a benefit from Brexit. If we can get this trade deal, this is something that we didn't have under EU rules.
But concerns in those services, particularly the financial sector, because of what's happened with the Swiss banking, a couple of months ago now,
Yeah.
of course, there are real problems. I mean, how robust is their financial situation, given what happened?
You're right to point that out. Credit Suisse, which is one of the major, what we call systemically important banks in the world, it was exposed to rising interest rates. The value of its bond portfolio was plummeting, as you and I have explained many times here on GB News. But the bank was taken over by another major Swiss bank, UBS, and for now it seems OK. Look, we're raising interest rates very, very quickly. There are creaks and cracks appearing in banking systems all over the world, not least in the US. It's not as if we're going to stop trading with the US, is it, the world's biggest economy? It's not as if we wouldn't do a trade deal with the US.
Well, the problems with Federal Reserve Bank.
If we got the opportunity. So Switzerland is a global centre of banking, as is the City of London, as is New York. There are going to be issues with banking systems when you raise interest rates sharply. I don't think that's a reason not to do a trade deal. And personally speaking, an opinion here, I would say if we can get this trade deal with Switzerland, that'll be a major feather in the cap of this government at a time when it needs some good